Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Spurs are trying to hijack the Xavi Simons deal, and we have all the latest. Nicolas Jackson's transfer to Bayern Munich has just got complicated. Chelsea are prioritising Garnacho and Lopez over the likes of Xavi Simons. Garnacho to Chelsea is basically finalised, and the here we go will be very soon, and a deal has been agreed for Nkunku to go to AC Milan. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k before the end of 2025. Kicking things off, Pletty have reported breaking news. Nicolas Jackson is set to move to Bayern on loan, and Bayern will cover the full salary. They go on to report that Bayern are working on the final details, if it will be an option or an obligation. Jackson's ability to play 9 behind the striker and his mentality have been highlighted. Jackson is definitely expected to join Bayern. Nizar Kansila has reported that Bayern Munich may get the opportunity to sign Nicolas Jackson on an initial loan, but negotiations continue on whether to include an option to buy or make it an obligation to buy. However, Matt Law has reported this morning that Chelsea are reluctant to finalise Nicolas Jackson's move away from the club before Alexander Isak's future becomes clear, in case Newcastle or Liverpool are forced to make a late move for him. This is where things get very, very complicated for Nicolas Jackson. We spoke about him a lot in the last week, because as we're getting closer to the end of the transfer window, it's very, very clear he is going to be leaving Chelsea. We know this for a long time. We've had various clubs that have been interested in him, Bayern Munich being the latest one, Aston Villa, Newcastle, some other Italian clubs that have been interested. No one's really pushed the pedal to the metal, so to speak, when it comes to signing Nicolas Jackson. Chelsea have wanted £80 million. They're not going to get that realistically. They never said that if it wasn't a Premier League rival, they'd do £60 to £65 million. Some Italian clubs were initially interested in that, then they pulled away, saying that you maybe not have the funds for it. Fair enough, it is what it is. But basically, Bayern Munich have been in the hot seat, saying that they're going to take him on a loan. Now, we're still negotiating from Chelsea and Bayern Munich whether it's going to be an initial loan, like a dry loan, and then later on having that obligation or an obligation to buy, or like a triggered clause to buy later on, right? That's fair enough. I think that makes a lot of sense. Chelsea demanding a £10 million loan fee and then having an obligation to buy later on to recoup some of that money, because that means we can get some money now, and we can also get some money a little later at the end of next season. Now, the reason we need Nicolas Jackson to leave before the transfer window ends is so we have space to make a signing for either Garnacho, Xavi Simons / Fermin Lopez, who we're going to speak about a little later in the video. And the reason being is the UEFA slots. That's all it is, to be able to bring in new players to register them for the UEFA competitions for this season. Now, it was reported by Fabrizio and some other few journalists that are saying that Nkunku is basically linked to the Xavi Simons deal and Garnacho is linked to the Nicolas Jackson deal. Now, again, we're going to talk, this is a wild video. There's a lot to go over regarding all of these players, and things are starting to get their wires crossed a little bit in places. I don't know whether Jackson is linked to the Xavi Simons deal or if he's linked to the Garnacho deal. Whatever, at the end of the day, Chelsea want to get these deals over the line as quick as possible, and things are really ramping up. However, I also understand Chelsea's standpoint here. If they can secure the bag for Nicolas Jackson before the transfer window ends by waiting a day or two to see what happens with Isak, to see what happens with Newcastle and the likes of Villa, are they going to put in a late bid for Nicolas Jackson, whether or not it be lower than the sort of 80 or the 60 million that we were happy to sell him for, so Chelsea can secure the bag now? I think that they're going to be a lot more accepting of that. And they'll say, yeah, cool, no worries, permanent deal, jobs are good, and whether they put on a sell-on fee, add-ons, whatever it may be to bump that price up, but they get a fat wedge for Nicolas Jackson up front, and he's gone. Rather than sending him on loan to Bayern Munich with a potential later on next season saying, oh, we don't really want to buy him, he then has to come back, and we have to deal with this circus all over again of trying to offload him and going this back and forth with a lot of clubs that just don't seem to have the funds. So I kind of understand it. However, there is a very, very short time before the transfer window closes. I don't know what I would much rather do. I think right now we're in a rush to get the Simons deal over the line and get the Garnacho deal or / Fermin Lopez deal over the line, right? Because there's such a limited time. We either be patient and run the risk of having Jackson stay at Chelsea when I don't think there is any way to really reintegrate him into the Chelsea squad for this season. I think there's more of a chance for Nkunku to happen, but we're going to speak about him later on. Obviously, he's agreed a move, and we're going to talk about that in detail. Came out of nowhere, if I'm being completely honest. Or we take that loan move right now from Bayern just to get it done. Now, I think Chelsea are going to wait at least 24 to 48 hours and then make the deal, because they're still negotiating with Bayern Munich whether it's an obligation to buy or a dry loan, or whatever incentives they're going to put into this contract to then take Jackson next season. So I wouldn't panic too much. It very much looks like Jackson is gone. I think that it is going to be done. I think Bayern Munich will take him eventually, because I'm not sure that Isak's going to go anywhere. I'm not sure if Liverpool are going to put in that big bid. They may still put in that big bid and Newcastle still decline it, because the way that situation is looking like is Newcastle just don't want to sell Isak, and it looks like he's going to be rotten in the reserves. I feel that's more of a punishment to the player to try and force the move, downgrade his value in terms of the market value, to try and push a move to Liverpool. Which I think is pretty sad when you think about it. The overarching sort of saga of Alexander Isak and Newcastle is pretty sad, from, especially from a Newcastle fan's perspective, but even from looking from the outside, you just never want the player-club relationship to kind of end like that. It annoys the fans, right? So I do feel like Jackson will be going to Bayern Munich. I can't see Newcastle stumping up the cash, and I can't see Aston Villa stumping up the cash. However, I am more than happy to be proven wrong, because if they come in and say, do you know what, we'll slap 60 million on the table, take that and run. So I feel like Chelsea are going to wait 24, 48 hours, and maybe this gets pushed to deadline day. My only concern with that is if there is another player linked to the Jackson deal, whether it is Garnacho or Xavi Simons / Fermin Lopez, then that means that has to be done. That deal has to be done behind the scenes, officially on paper, and then announced and actually put through proper procedures once Jackson goes. So it's a same day deal, sort of, one player goes out, the other player comes in. Because if not, we are running the risk as the club of not securing the replacement that we are planning on bringing in from the market opportunities. So very curious to know your thoughts down below regarding the whole Nicolas Jackson situation. It seemed like it was very cut and dry. He was going to Bayern Munich. It was either a dry loan or an obligation to buy. Chelsea get a loan fee up front anyway of £10 million. But this morning, with these new reports from Matt Law saying Chelsea are, holding off a little bit because they want to know what's happened with Isak, Newcastle, Villa, all these other Prem clubs. Are they going to put in a late bid? What would you do? I want to know what you guys would do down in the comments regarding Nicolas Jackson. Would you just get rid of him on loan now so it's done? Or would you be the one waiting patiently to see if there's any late bids? Fabrizio Romano has reported the official package now on the table for Manchester United. I always told you Garnacho was going to Chelsea, waiting for the final green light. He continues to report that Chelsea have confirmed their proposal worth 35 to 40 million as their total package for Alejandro Garnacho, now waiting for Manchester United's green light. Here we go soon. Now we know that this deal is going to happen. We know it's going to happen because Fabrizio has not stopped talking about it for the last forever. It feels like a year. It feels like an eternity that Fabrizio has been talking about Garnacho. It's his exclusive deal, and I don't know if you're aware, but it looks like Garnacho's going to Chelsea. So it's going to be finalised. We knew this was going to happen. I spoke about this in yesterday's video. If you haven't seen it, feel free to check it out. But I was basically speaking about, as Chelsea fans, we just have to accept it. And I feel like there's a big pool of Chelsea fans who still don't want this transfer to happen. Well, unfortunately, it's going to happen. So we have to, you have to swallow that bitter pill and get over it. And there's also a lot of fans that want this Garnacho deal to happen. Me, myself, I've always said I've not been a fan of the transfer. However, I'll always back a player if they put on a Chelsea shirt till they give me a reason not to. And I will stand by that. I've always been that way. I also said that if Chelsea go and spend £50 million on Garnacho to Manchester United, I personally wouldn't be too impressed with that. I think that's way too much money for a player like Garnacho, who has been forcing the move away. I don't really like how he's been acting in that sense, trying to force his move away, basically throwing his toys at the pram at times, saying, I don't want to play for United, and I just want this move to Chelsea. He's turned down a lot of moves to say like Bayern Munich, Saudi clubs, other potential clubs as well. I do kind of rate that because he's very tunnel vision. He wants that Chelsea move. That I kind of respect. But regardless of all that, I said in yesterday's video, if Chelsea could spend between 35, 40 million maximum on Garnacho, I think that's genuinely a good deal. Because if he's in the right environment and he's under a manager like Maresca and he's got people like Enzo Fernandez, a fellow countryman, to put his arm around him and say, this is how things work here. It's a winning environment. We're all settled in. We play for each other. We work for each other. And the fans can accept him. I feel like they will. They'll have to earn the trust from the player and the fan side for the ones that didn't want the transfer. I feel like he can win people over. If he keeps acting the way he's been acting and basically twerking for Chelsea, and he does that, could you imagine the scenes when we play United and he scores the winner against them? It'd be absolute cinema. So I'm not saying he's going to, sign for Chelsea and absolutely tear the world alight and be a Ballon d'Or winner, but I feel like there is genuinely a position for him on that left-hand side, and I feel like he can thrive in this new environment. We always have to remember, they said similar things with Jadon Sancho. We then took him on loan and he was nothing but professional, trained hard, worked hard, got on with the fans, got on with the manager and the team. And the only reason we didn't keep him is because he couldn't agree the wages that we offered him, which was around 180 to 200,000 a week, and he was on 300,000 on his current contract at United. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's a personal preference. Going to going into a new job and taking a massive pay cut isn't for everyone, right? Some people will, some people won't. It is what it is. But regardless of that, Garnacho to Chelsea's happening. We're waiting for the here we go. Now, my question is this linked to the Nicolas Jackson deal? Is this linked to the Nkunku deal? Now, we are going to talk about this. I feel like it is linked to the Nicolas Jackson deal. However, I feel like the Garnacho deal, because it's so done and dusted, it will be announced the same day that Nicolas Jackson is announced to leave Chelsea. Whether it's to Bayern on loan, which I think will happen, or if it's a late bid from a Premier League club that comes in with a big wad of cash. Either way, I feel like once that deal is announced, that Nicolas Jackson is a here we go, he's gone, we'll get the here we go Garnacho to Chelsea. The only thing we are basically waiting for is Manchester United to agree the fee, whether it's 35 or 40 million. Now, I feel like Chelsea have put in £35 million with 5 million in add-ons to make it 40 million. If they made those add-ons easily achievable, I feel like Manchester United are going to want to accept it, because I don't know what's going on there. We all saw the football last night, losing to Grimsby on penalties. Wow. Unbelievably fantastic performance from Grimsby. Fair play to them. Fair play to be knocking out Premier League opposition, being in League 2 is genuinely wonderful, right? And it's the whole footballing story. But how embarrassing is it for Manchester United and Amorim? Clearly don't want Garnacho. He's been frozen out the squad. And, he's doing his training on his own, etc. like that. United want to cut ties with him. I feel like they'll take £40 million all in. I genuinely do. And I feel like that's a good enough price for Chelsea, because if it doesn't work out, we can sell him on for profit for sure, because he is young, he is developing, he has got Premier League experience, he has won trophies, and he's only going to get better in theory, right? Upwards trajectory and all that. And if it does work out, amazing. We'd make money on him. £40 million is nothing really when you think about it in today's grand scheme of player transfers. Think about it. We signed Nicolas Jackson for 32 million. And now we're looking to flip him or offload him, where we're eventually going to make profit off of him. Noni Madueke, similar price, sell him for 52. So the way that Chelsea flip players and the way that things are going under the project at Chelsea, this is very much a doable thing in my opinion. So again, love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Garnacho to Chelsea. Now that it's basically finalised, we're just waiting for the here we go, and obviously Manchester United's green light, which I can see happening very, very soon. Do you think he's linked to the Nicolas Jackson deal, or is he linked to the Nkunku deal? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Late last night, Matt Law reported breaking news. Tottenham are trying to beat Chelsea to the signing of Xavi Simons. Talks have begun over a bid before the deadline. He continues to report that Tottenham are holding talks over a pre-deadline bid for Xavi Simons to rival Chelsea. Chelsea are evaluating a move for Lopez, which could open doors for Simons to Spurs. He continues to say that Tottenham have been interested in Simons for some time, and there is some optimism he would be open to a move to Tottenham despite his apparent interest in joining Chelsea. Bilt have reported that Tottenham come in hot for Xavi and has the money to pay €70 million, which is what Leipzig want. The CEO and Levy know each other well. Xavi must be convinced, and he also has a salary of €11 million. It is not known if Spurs can get this. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Tottenham will not advance or bid for Xavi Simons while Chelsea are still in for him. Chelsea remains in negotiations and advanced talks with the player. It's really important for Nkunku to go. Then this morning, Philip Hines 24 had reported that Xavi Simons has been released from training until further notice. He engaged in discussions and negotiations about his future. Xavi is currently in London. Despite contrary reports, Chelsea remain in the race alongside Tottenham. London duel. Matt Law has reported this morning that Tottenham are nervous of losing Xavi Simons to Chelsea, which has resulted with them proceeding with caution. And Pletigo have also reported just now that Tottenham have informed Leipzig that they are pushing to sign Xavi Simons. They want £60 million. Chelsea remain in the race and already have an agreement with Xavi. Leipzig are waiting for the official offers from both clubs. Now, this is what we live for when it comes to transfer news. Spurs are trying to hijack the Xavi Simons deal. Now, I've got one phrase. The history of the Tottenham, right? That is how we know this goes, right? Chelsea are not going to lose out to Xavi Simons if we are going in for him and get things sorted. We have to talk about the Christopher Nkunku deal in a little while, and I feel like that may be linked with the Xavi Simons deal and also Fermin Lopez, which brings things into the mix. It is a big cauldron right now of transfers of in and out, and Chelsea are trying to rush around and get these things done before deadline day. Now look, Spurs have had an interest in Xavi Simons for a while. I'm sure a lot of clubs have. Xavi Simons has already turned down Bayern Munich. He turned down Arsenal. He turned down, what was it, City. He's turned down lots of clubs, says he only wants Chelsea. Personal terms have been agreed for basically a month now. We have been dragging this out for a long time because we've needed to offload Nkunku and Jackson. Jackson looks to be gone. Nkunku has. So what are Chelsea going to do now? Are we going to prioritise Fermin Lopez and go for him? Are we prioritising Garnacho because Nkunku's gone? I personally feel like now Nkunku's gone, we can get Xavi Simons over the line. He's in London today. These reports were literally just before I recorded this video, up from last night all the way up until right now. He is in London. Everyone is expecting him to go to Spurs, have those negotiations, try to be convinced. I wouldn't specifically say it's hijacking. Hijacking to me is almost like the Willian deal. Willian was literally having a medical at Spurs, and then Chelsea called him and said, "Do you want to come to us?" And he went, "Yeah, all right, fair enough." They'd done the medical at Tottenham. He said, "Thank you very much. I'm going Chelsea. See ya." Now, that is a hijack, right? I don't see Spurs doing this to Chelsea. The only way I can see this happening is if Chelsea pull out of this race. I can't see Chelsea and Xavi having this agreement in place for such a long time for all of a sudden, when things are right on the cusp of being finalised, that Chelsea go, "Nah, we're all right. We're going to go Fermin Lopez instead." That makes no sense to me whatsoever, if I'm being brutally honest. I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding that, because I honestly think that Xavi Simons, it would be an incredible addition to Chelsea. We spoke about him for a long, long time here on this channel, because it's been spoke about for over a month now in the transfer window. We are right on the cusp of signing this player. Now, I believe that he is linked to the Christopher Nkunku deal, which has just been finalised this morning, which is fantastic news. Like I said, we're going to speak about that in just a second. I do not see Spurs beating Chelsea to the player unless they do some incredible negotiation tactics and convince Xavi that he needs to go to Spurs. If I'm being honest, if he goes to Spurs, that attacking setup that they've got there is frightening. It's frightening. It really, really is. But I don't see 11 million euros a year. I see Chelsea paying that, no problem. Probably paying him more for a player of his capabilities. I don't know whether Spurs are going to front that money. I also find it funny that Leipzig are still waiting for official bids from both clubs. So as of right now, no one's actually officially bid for Xavi Simons. The price has always been 70 million euros. We've known that for a long time. I think that Chelsea are more than happy to pay that at this point. Spurs are obviously willing to match that, but I don't feel pressure from Spurs, me personally. I really don't. Do you guys feel pressure from Spurs? Do you feel like they're going to hijack this move? Very curious to know your thoughts. I think that this is right on the cusp of happening. Nkunku has just left today. We've got a few days left. I think Friday is what I was going to say. Friday will be the day, in my opinion, when everything gets announced, signed, sealed and delivered, and we will not have any more rushes. How many days is that? That's a couple of days' time. That's tomorrow, because the window technically ends on Monday. I feel like we will have some deadline day deals, of course, we normally do. But I feel like Xavi Simons, with Nkunku going, Simons will be signed and done. It looks like Chelsea are prioritising Garnacho and obviously Fermin Lopez, which we're going to talk about in a second, over the Xavi Simons deal, which makes no sense to me, because they're both there waiting in the wings just to have that green light to come across. So I would personally get Xavi Simons over the line, because we know Garnacho is pretty much done. But and I feel like Nicolas Jackson is basically going on loan as an absolute fail-safe, because we're just waiting on another Prem club to come in with a permanent offer within the last few days, and I don't see that happening, if I'm being honest. Again, happy to be proven wrong, but I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Xavi Simons to Chelsea and Spurs trying to hijack this deal. Do you feel like Spurs are going to hijack this deal from Chelsea, or do you feel like it's the history of the Tottenham and Chelsea are going to secure Xavi Simons now that Christopher Nkunku is done? Is he linked to the Nkunku deal? Is he linked to the Nicolas Jackson deal? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Mr. Dom Smith has reported that Chelsea are also working on a move for Fermin Lopez. Garnacho and Lopez are viewed as bigger priorities than RB Leipzig midfielder Xavi Simons, who has emerged as a target for Tottenham. Now, I'm just going to cover this very quickly. I kind of covered it just a second ago. This makes no sense to me. I would absolutely love a player like Fermin Lopez coming to Chelsea. What a fantastic player. Now, we know that Garnacho is waiting on the wings. We know that Xavi Simons is waiting on the wings. Now, that was what the plan was. These two players coming to Chelsea by the end of the window. Happy days. What two great additions to this squad. Especially Xavi Simons. Unbelievable. Obviously, Garnacho's Prem proven or whatnot. He's played a few seasons there. And we've got Jamie Gittins, who's still adapting to the league and obviously the country and the type of football we play. But those two in rotation, I feel like it could work very, very well. We also have other players that can play on that left, drifting inside, like João Pedro or Pedro Neto could play over there. Esteval could do a part over there. We've got a few players that could play there, right? But when it comes to the Xavi Simons or Fermin Lopez, I feel like Lopez would be a great fail-safe. I would much rather Xavi Simons over Lopez personally. Now, a lot of you guys said yesterday you'd prefer Lopez over Xavi Simons. It was quite split, if I'm being honest. So I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Why would you prefer one player over the other? Me personally, I just feel like Chelsea are going to get the Xavi Simons deal over the line. If for whatever reason, if hell freezes over and Spurs hijack the deal from Chelsea, which honestly would be so gutting at this stage, then I firmly believe we'll get Lopez over the line. But it all does depend on Barcelona and Lopez. Lopez is seriously considering the Chelsea move, but like we reported in yesterday's video, reacted to, Fabrizio said that Lopez has come out and said 5 days ago that he wants to stay at Barca. Hansi Flick wants to keep Lopez. Obviously, the £42 million that it would take to get the deal done is considerably less than Xavi Simons, granted. He has obviously a very talented player, don't get me wrong. I'd be happy with Lopez for sure, but over Xavi Simons, maybe not so much. Either or I'd be happy with. I'm not going to be greedy. I want both. But I'd much rather Xavi Simons to come across than Lopez out of the two if I had to choose. It would help Barcelona in their financial issues. It really would. So I can see that the club wanting to do it, whether the player does is a completely different story. So I also want to know if they're prioritising Garnacho and Lopez, who is he tied to? Is he tied to the Nkunku deal? Is he tied to the Jackson deal? Or is this an additional signing? Some of you said at yesterday's comment section that Maresca wanted 8 to 9 attackers. And he did come out and say that. So is this just another signing that Chelsea are trying to get across the line to have Lopez, Xavi Simons and Garnacho all come in before the end of the window? Because I'll go back to the original question. Where are we going to play them? How are they going to fit in? Is it just mad depth across that attacking line? Because Lopez could play as a 10, he could play on the left. Xavi could play on the left, he could play as a 10. Garnacho plays on the left. I mean, it fills out the left for sure. And number 10, we've got João Pedro that could play there. We've got Esteval that could play there. We've got Cole Palmer that could play there. We've just got mountains and mountains of players across that attacking four, which obviously Maresca's going to love having that versatility, that rotation, the options. It'd be unbelievable, especially with all of the competitions we're playing in, and Champions League being a big competition this season. Kind of makes sense. But then if we're talking about UEFA spots, I swear we're doing like for that reason. That's why we want to offload Jackson. We want to offload Nkunku to bring in Xavi Simons or Garnacho, because it's 2 UEFA spots freed up, then 2 taken by the new players. That's at least my understanding. I could be wrong. Please let me know in the comments if I am. But I'd love to know your thoughts anyway regarding Fermin Lopez. Do you think that Chelsea are going to sign him as an addition to Xavi Simons and Garnacho, or is it a fail-safe just in case we do lose out on Xavi Simons to Spurs? Late last night, Santi JFM reported breaking news that AC Milan are preparing a 30 to 40 million euro bid for Nkunku. Personal terms have nearly been agreed for a contract up to 2030. Leipzig and Aston Villa also want to propose a permanent deal. He goes on to report that Chelsea have rejected a loan deal with obligatory purchase option from Bayern Munich for Christopher Nkunku, who might come back with a bid. RB Leipzig and Villa also want to propose a permanent transfer. Fabrizio Romano then reported very shortly after that personal terms between Christopher Nkunku and AC Milan are done. Club talks continue today. And first thing this morning, Fabrizio Romano reported an exclusive. Christopher Nkunku to AC Milan, here we go. Deal verbally agreed in principle between the clubs. AC Milan and Chelsea are set to prepare documents today. Fee will be in a region of 35 million euros with add-ons. Nkunku said yes to a 5-year contract yesterday as revealed. This is huge. Huge, because again, this is one of the dominoes falling into place to unlock all of the other purchases, whether it's Garnacho, whether it's Xavi Simons, whether it's Fermin Lopez, and this is why the Nicolas Jackson and Nkunku deals can get a bit sticky and where the wires can cross a little, because who are they linked to in terms of Chelsea's priorities? We said earlier in the video, Chelsea are prioritising Fermin Lopez and as well as Garnacho. So are they the two that are linked to Nicolas Jackson and Nkunku? Nkunku is now leaving. We've got the here we go. I wish him all of the best. I think he's going to do very, very well at AC Milan. And I also think 35 million euros with 5 million in add-ons, so 40 million euros, works out about what, 35 million pounds. It's fair enough. It's fair enough for a player that we very rarely used. It's fair enough for a player that we had for a long time injured. Now, do I wish that Nkunku worked at Chelsea? 100%. When we signed him from Leipzig, at the time, I was like, he was one of my favourite players. He was so good, mainly going back to FIFA days. I was like, he's incredible. Not only watching him, but also using his card in FIFA as well. It was like his year in the Bundesliga, right? He was everywhere. And it hasn't worked out at Chelsea, unfortunately, and I do feel for him in that sense. He's an incredibly good player. We've barely used him, and we've managed to get nearly 40 million pounds from him, from an Italian club. Now, I want to say thank you to AC Milan. Do you know what? All is forgiven for Mike Maignan, because if we can now go get Xavi Simons because of this, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We forgive you for the Mike Maignan situation, because it looks like Italian clubs don't have the money. Apparently they do, because AC Milan come out of the woodwork last night and were like, bang, we want Nkunku. We're going to be paying around 35 million euros for the player. Let's go. Let's get this done. And the fast turnaround of this deal from personal terms to actually being agreed from club to club is less than 12 hours, or just about 12 hours. This is what we needed at this time in the market for this domino to fall. And again, Leipzig and Villa were waiting in the wings. Done. You've missed your opportunity. So I don't know whether Chelsea are looking at this and how fast this has turned around to then look at the Nicolas Jackson deal when it comes to the loan with Bayern Munich and potentially Newcastle and Villa coming in with that late bid, because it could be one of those where it's like bang, 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 yes, let's get this done, and it's done. But regarding this deal, I think this is a very good move for Nkunku on a personal level, like, you know, as a player. I think he'll do very, very well in the Serie A. I think AC Milan have got a very good player. It's a 5-year deal. He's 27 years old, coming into his prime. He can play as a 10, play off the left, play as a false 9. I think he'll do very well out there. I think he'll be happy getting regular football. AC Milan have got a great player. Chelsea have got a decent fee. Originally, we wanted £43 million for him. Doesn't look like we're going to quite get that. Fair enough, but £35 million, you know, with add-ons or potential anything else that can be added on to that, amazing. Perfect deal, in my opinion. We've got it over the line. The first domino falls. Now, my question to you is, which domino then falls in line? Is it the Jackson deal gets done before we even go for Garnacho, or Xavi Simons, or Fermin Lopez? Where do you see Chelsea going after this being confirmed this morning? Because again, today, this may even be a double upload day. So make sure you're subscribing to notifications. It may be a double upload day. There's so much news going around. We haven't even covered the League Cup, the Champions League draw. There's so much going on. I personally feel like now this deal's done, we can go for Xavi Simons. And I feel like the Spurs coming into it just spices things up again, because it's been the same updates for days and days and days, for weeks and weeks and weeks. Spurs are now, you know, sniffing around, seeing that there's some interest, seeing if they can try and get in there. And Chelsea are going to be like, now we have the personal terms agreed. We now have the player that's gone. Let's go buy the player of Xavi Simons. I also have a funny feeling that this may mean that the Garnacho deal is finalised later on today or tomorrow, because we know how Chelsea are thinking, and they're somehow prioritising Garnacho over Xavi Simons, which makes no sense to me. We could also get some progress on Fermin Lopez. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding this deal for Christopher Nkunku to go to AC Milan. Like I said, I wish him all the best. Thank you for your service. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see a lot of blue balloons blown up as celebrations, but I'm grateful for the ones that we did get. £35 million all in for Christopher Nkunku, a player that we barely used. I'm actually really happy with that. That now takes Chelsea's player sales to over £300 million this summer window, which is unbelievable. That is a net positive for Chelsea in this window, which is incredible, and there's still players to be offloaded. So let me know your thoughts and opinions regarding this deal down below. What are your thoughts? Do you think Nkunku will do well? Do you think we've got a good price? Who do you think the next player that Chelsea will sign off of this list will be? And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail, because you'll enjoy that video too.